Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Taurus for October 2018. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, see the amazing amount of free resources I have on there for you. And if you'd like to have a live reading with me, I'm off my long sabbatical from taking on new clients, so you can book a reading at anniehelpsyou.com. So what's going on in October? We have just come off of a time where we've had an amazing amount of activity, astronomically, astrologically. And so in that regard, things are a little bit more calm at this point. We're out of the eclipse, hot spots, the major aspects that we had going on in August and September have now shifted. So our biggest focus now is Venus retrograde, but it in and of itself is a very broad area of focus. Venus rules love, romance, beauty, design, money, finance, business as it relates to money. So it's very pervasive in our lives. It covers just so many areas. So even though there aren't a whole bunch of different things going on and the transits are somewhat muted compared to how they have been, this Venus retrograde is an all-encompassing energy. So because of this, I've created a massive amount of resources for you on this topic because I can't cover all of it in this video. But what I am going to cover in this video is where in the Taurus chart Venus is going to be retrograde and specific questions to ask or things that will be coming up in those divisions for each of the Taurus placements and some general Venus retrograde things plus some sweet spots and challenging spots in the general transits. So that's my intention for this video. But what I've created additionally, if you search for Annie Botticelli Venus retrograde, I have a very comprehensive video on how to master this transit because it's retrograde from October 5th through November 15th. And there's shadow periods on either side. They're a month long. So September 4th through the middle of December is covered in Venus retrograde. And even those shadow periods, the same rules and the same topics come up. So this whole time for the rest of the year, September through December, we're going to have to be working with this. So definitely check out my blog, Venus Retrograde Do's and Don'ts, and the video, and my 12 blog series, which is also on my website. Okay, so let's hit some of the highlights now. People are not seeing clearly in love and beauty and money when Venus is in retrograde, put very simply. Okay, so it's best to not make life-changing decisions in those areas of life if you can help it. If opportunities come and you're following things that are low stakes, it's fine. Business as usual is fine. Going back to things from the past, trying things on, working with things in the backdrop is all fine. But where you really have to watch out is those big launches for, your money things, your big decisions with love, big decisions with your physical body, your design, wardrobe, your hair, your anything with doing something to your body permanently. Also design work, like design projects. All of these are very much flavored by this Venus retrograde, and since we're not seeing clearly, it adds to the odds that we might say, what was I thinking? If you do something really important during that time, it increases the odds of what was I thinking? Okay, so if you're having to divide finances, if you're in the process of a separation of business or, a marital partner, the urge is going to be very high to just give away everything. And even like emotionally charged material purchases or things like houses or things of value, you might be in a quick hurry to release them either for financial reasons or for emotional reasons. You want to step away from the energy. So it's a treasure hunter's delight because you can pick up things that people are giving away like for nothing, but you don't want to be the person that gives away something of value that you later look back and say, what was I thinking? Okay, so just review all the rules, but in general, try to do evaluating, assessing, appraising, looking into, researching, but try to avoid the actual thing. And if you do, just make really sure that you really want to do it and you're doing it for the right reasons. And, try to be extra protective about getting your fair share because you might not care about that now, but when the transit has happened already, then you might care about that. And then if you make the decisions that are binding, you won't be able to do anything about it. Okay, so those are some basic things. Now, we're going to talk about which houses they're retrograde for the different Taurus placements. So Venus is going to be primarily retrograde in the first house for early degree placements. Some middle degrees will experience this too. Early degree is like the first third of the sign, so the first 10 days or so. And it could be a little bit more than that, you know, like the first half of the sign, you'll see some of this energy. Well, it's more towards the early, really like the first 10 days of the sign will feel this in the 7th house. The rest of you are going to feel this in the 6th house. And even you early degree placements, you might feel some of this in the 6th house. So I think what's best to do is we're going to focus on the 6th house, because every Taurus placement will have these 6th house things as a very strong likelihood. And then I'll give you a little bit of additional information on the 7th house. What's interesting though about the 7th house manifestations is that since Venus is going to be retrograde through the signs of Scorpio and Libra, Libra rules the 7th house, that everybody, even every other sign, has a very strong chance for the energy of Venus to manifest in that 7th house. So we're going to talk about the 6th and 7th house, and just know that all Taurus placements can experience any of those things. Okay, so this is valid for all of you, even if that's not the exact place of the retrograde. Okay, so what happens when with Venus is retrograde in the 6th house? The 6th house has to do with pets. It has to do with your health, your diet, your routine, your regimen, you know, anything medical exams, medical diagnostics, office place dynamics, daily routine, anything having to do with your structure, your organization, things like that. So when Venus is retrograde here, it can often bring questions about the workplace or self-employment methods. So great opportunities can come from the past, and your better opportunities will be from the past than brand new ones, unless they have a link or a connection to the past. So it may be easier to find business solutions and business in general by going back to tried and true principles and clients that you already have, rather than trying to focus too much on new marketing, new development. Okay, so also things involving like office place dynamics could come up for better or worse. So anything that hasn't been resolved, that's something that Venus retrograde does, is it pulls up things that haven't been resolved. Okay, so anything in the office, anything with pets, anything with health that hasn't been resolved will often come up, and sometimes in a bigger, louder way, so that you deal with it. Okay, so you'll know if something's coming up big and strong, that probably it's been under the cover, you know, or whatever it is, it's time to deal with it now. The good news is that if you focus on it and give it the attention it needs, you could come to a great resolution. That's one of the points of these retrogrades, is to shore up energy and to strengthen a foundation. So businesses related to any of those areas of life, if you've wanted to start a business in any of those areas, this isn't the best time to start it, unless it's not a business you want to do long term. It's not a business that has high stakes. You don't have to invest that much in it. You know, it's just something you're kind of playing with. It's just this part-time hobby that you might want to make some money from. Low stakes things aren't really a problem. Like for instance, one time many years ago, I started a pet sitting business in Venus retrograde. I knew going into it that Venus retrograde wasn't going to bring longevity to the business, but I didn't need longevity. It was just a passion of mine that I loved because I love animals, and I had helped animals in the past. So I started this business and it worked beautifully well. It was very prosperous, and I helped lots of creatures and their owners. And then in a short amount of time, something else that I do took over as a main focus, and I didn't have time to do it anymore. So I knew going into it that it was going to be short-lived. So if you know going into something that it's going to be short-lived, like it's a bridge or it's like an interim thing, then that's totally fine. But like those big things that you're going to put money and resources that you've been waiting forever to unleash, wait till the end of December into January for those things, because you want to get out of these retrograde energies. So any short-term ventures can be fine as long as a lot of money or resources or risk is involved, and that the stakes are low, and that the term of the time you want to use it is not too high. Money owed to you from the past could come in at this time. Bonuses from work for the past, recognition or raises from the past could come in. It's not necessarily the best time to ask for a raise, but if you're up for it, like if you're already up for it and they're doing the evaluation, it's more likely that something would come in. Dissatisfaction with the money you make or your business or office place dynamics are more likely. So anything that you sweep under the rug of daily consciousness gets brought out and is just dusty all over the place, so that annoying person, will become more annoying. That boss that isn't being fair will probably be less fair in your face, you know. So it's a good idea to think about your escape plan and plan B, but it's not necessarily the best time to leave if you can help it, because you're not seeing clearly. Emotions may be a factor that would change how you would handle it if you weren't emotional. Love can return from the past, especially as it relates to a place where you worked or business, or things you do daily, like someone you see at the grocery store all the time or someone you see at yoga. That type of love is more likely to come back. Any nagging health symptoms really always need to be addressed, but since this is, you know, highlighting the health house, you really need to check into that. And maybe resources or modalities that you used before could be helpful. Like if you have to go back on some treatment, things that you did in the past might be more beneficial than new treatments. So in general, the questions to ask for this time, or that you can proactively ask to use the energies the best, or that will just naturally be coming up. Do you love your job? If not, what can you do to have a better work experience in the future? What are some ideas for plan B without necessarily enacting them unless they're behind the scenes? How can you leverage your past accomplishments and your connections to boost your current business income, etc.? Do you have nagging health symptoms that are begging for attention? Do you have resources that could be better helping you? So for instance, this is an amazing time to look at coverage that you're already paying for, that you may have resources available for something you're already paying for or given to you for free that you're not utilizing. So I've definitely seen that happen. You know, people seeing that there are modalities and other things covered on their insurance that can really benefit them. Working with like something with the health, the regimen, you know, beauty, aesthetic surgeries are not well indicated in Venus retrograde. If you have to pull those through and you're watching this early, the first week of September is the best time until the end of December. But if it's an emergency surgery and it's not related to aesthetics, that's fine. Don't worry about it. You have to, you know, be safe. It has, you know, the Venus rules the aesthetics. It doesn't really rule the health part of it per se. So that's the difference there. This can also bring up some things with your pets. They might need some attention, or there might be some opportunities to make money involving animals or with your animals. So those are the things that I think that the 6th house can bring in. The 7th house, and again, this is true for everybody, even people who aren't Taurus placements, because Venus is going to go retrograde in the sign of Libra, which rules the 7th house. So you early degree placements are going to have kind of like a double energy of what I'm going to give you, but everyone is very likely to have the following things come up. Okay, so this has to do with the 7th house. This has to do with relationships. And so making big decisions in relationships, again, is not very well indicated. But here are some great questions to ask, or things that might naturally come up during this time. In what ways do you perceive your current relationship, and how you're seeing things helping you on your highest path or not? Are your perceptions correct, or are you projecting your internal issues on somebody? How can you shift out of negative patterns in relationships? So noticing patterns that you had before this current relationship, that those are your own patterns, right? You brought them with you to the relationship. How can you shift out of them and create win-win relationships? How can you be better heard in relationships? And how can you hear people better in relationships? What patterns are present that have been there your whole life, like really going back far and maybe even beyond to past life? What connections from your past might be helpful to any of your visions? What people from your past are you feeling drawn to reconnect with? And what do you really want, and what do you need to be able to communicate those things you want and your needs to the people in your life? So couples and individual counseling is an amazing way to use this energy. You know, anything that helps the magic return to present relationships, and that's relationships of any kind, not just love. You know, you're with your parents, you're, you know, playing games that you used to play, or things with your kids. In some cases, re-exploring previous relationships without the commitment, like a trial period, just kind of like seeing what comes up and playing things, you know, with things that were fun in the past, bringing those back up for like a renaissance. So my affirmation for this energy is, I choose to sharpen my listening skills as it relates to self and others. So these are the things that are most on my mind for Taurus. Now I want to talk about some additional important Venus retrograde pieces, including some sweet dates for October, some jolting dates to watch. So I'm calling the theme of October 2018 for all signs Venus retrograde on the positive tip. We've already talked about what Venus retrograde in the house that it's retrograde for your sign can look like for you and some strategies to best utilize that. And now I want to give you some general things, especially some positive things, but also with a few cautionary notes and just a reminder that really you have to go watch my Venus retrograde video, Annie Botticelli Venus retrograde, and definitely look at the written version in my blog at anniehelpsyou.com because there's so much to know about this transit. It's so long. It's from October 5th through November 15th as the actual retrograde, but a month before and a month after is the shadow period when we're going to these rules will apply. So one of the best things that Venus retrograde is amazing for is working on self-esteem. Everything that Venus rules, love, beauty, design, money, comes back to this energy of relationship with self. So our relationship with money and business, our relationship with other people, our relationship with how we feel like we look, all has to do with our self-esteem. So that's why in general it's not favored to try to push out in any of these other arenas because it's really a time to locate and clear issues that are holding you back from the inside. So inner work, prayer, meditation, affirmation, anything where you can heal from trauma and anything that's negatively affecting your self-esteem is amazing for this time. Something else that's amazing for this time is to look to the past for improvements for love and money. Okay, so that means like if you did something with your partner in the past that worked really well, or if in general you did certain things with your love life in the past that worked really well. There could be like a renaissance, a returning back to things that worked really well. Many people who are separated from their love will have them come back to them in Venus retrograde. If there's someone that you left off with and you're not sure about, sometimes they come knocking again in Venus retrograde. And it's a really amazing time to reconsider things. And assess. It's just not the best time to commit to anything that you're figuring out from the assessments. Something that Venus retrograde is amazing for is for treasure hunters. If you are looking for a deal on something, unfortunately, this is coming from the fact that many people are not seeing clearly in money and they're selling things of value for emotional reasons at crazy low prices. So if you have money to spare, you could wind up picking up an amazing deal. It's just a treasure hunter's delight. Definitely be careful though, because it could also, something you buy could become a money pit. So you have to make sure that you're getting a really great deal and that, like if it's a house or something, you really need to do as many inspections as possible and just make sure, you have all your bases covered, extra inspections like sewage, septic, whatever, everything that you can do to make sure that that what you're buying isn't going to have any negative surprises, then it could turn out really well. You just have to look out for that. So in general, going back to the past for love, going back to the past for money and business, things that worked in the past with money, clients from the past, if you do something like you teach or offer something regularly, sometimes in a Venus retrograde, you'll have a bunch of people from the past who had been considering taking this offering might come out in full force. And of course, it could happen the other way. A lot of people do have financial issues, like financial backlog, where they have trouble with their finances, and then that's going to point to healing some inner issues that are causing these reflections or the lack of stability. Okay, so I'm going to talk about hit some sweet spots and hit some challenging spots in the month. Remember, definitely go to anniehelpsyou.com, sign up for my free email newsletter, because there I give you a write-up of this general transit in more detail with lots of dates of actual aspects, what the aspects are and what to look out for each aspect, so that you can plan ahead. I always send these out a month early. And if you are signed up for my newsletter and you're not getting these, I'm definitely sending them. I always send them meticulously on time. So you definitely check for like your spam, promotions, or social folders, because if you're not getting in the inbox, they're going there. And then you can just move it over to your inbox or whitelist the email on there to get them in there. Okay, so let's just do a quick review of some sweet spots. Well, actually, let's do the challenging ones first, okay? So we've got things to look out for on October 2nd, 5th, 8th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 23rd, 24th, and 31st, with extra emphasis on those ones towards the end of the month, the 24th and the 31st. Now it's interesting because in general, the second half of the month has a lot better flow and sweet energy, with the exception of those two spots. Okay, those are oppositions with Uranus that can bring jolts and surprises. That could be challenging. So just kind of tread lightly around those days. And then the other ones that I listed, you could see some challenges. Always look out around the full moon, which is like the 24th, because, you know, there could be drama or there could be fulfillment, completion or fruition. And that's going to be in these energies of Taurus. So fullness, completion, drama, fruition, coming to things involving money and business and self-worth. There's a topic coming up again, sensual delights, material resources, environmental and sustainability projects, boundaries, resistance to change, things like that. Oh, and anything having to do with your throat, vocal cords, thyroid gland, etc. could bring things to light or bring things up to be dealt with. Okay, so I want to end off talking about the sweet spots. We've got some of the days that could turn out to be challenging could also turn out to be super sweet. So you'll hear when I list the sweet vibe days. And always remember, when I give you these dates, we could feel the energies before or after the actual date, because there's an orb of energy around each transit. So don't stick too heavily to the dates, just kind of tune into how you are experiencing the energy. So sweet spot possibilities on the 5th, the 8th, the 15th, the 19th, the 22nd, the 24th, the 26th, the 27th, and the 29th. In general, the second half of the month, like I said, has a lot of sweetness. With the exception of the 23rd, 24th, and the 31st, some things to look out for. But there's some really awesome things going on, like October 22nd. Mercury is making a beautiful aspect to Pluto. So your powers of persuasion are improved and your powers of perception are improved. Then there's also this October 27th with the Sun in Scorpio making an amazing aspect to Saturn. So this is a great energy to get things done, and also an enhanced possibility of being seen or acknowledged by somebody in a position that you want to notice you. So it could be like someone in your family that you've always been kind of chasing their approval, or it could be somebody, you know, in the work world. October 29th, there's this mixed bag, but it really has potential for a lot of good news and good luck. Mercury and Jupiter get together. So whenever any of these personal planets get together with Jupiter, the energy of luck, you know, amplifies out, and Mercury rules news. So some good news about money, about something involving your partner. It could be money from your partner. It could be your own money. Lots of magical potentials here. Of course, it could also bring intensity to conversations, you know, in the Scorpio realms or something like that. But in general, I'm looking for that day, hopefully, to have some good vibes. So overall, this month of October, some little awkward spots, and definitely the Venus retrograde is going to have this shadow. But if you understand the energies, as you will if you use all of the many resources that I made for you, then I think that this can be a really sweet month. And for the things that are challenging, you could really have pure alchemy to turn the lead to gold. So go to anniehelpsyou.com, sign up for my free email newsletter. You can also see more about my personal live readings, which I'm off sabbatical and I'm taking live, taking new clients now. If you've been wanting to have a reading and have me look at your chart. Also, if you would love to learn astrology, check out my astrology apprenticeship program. I also have all kinds of other goodies on my website. If you want written horoscopes from me, they go into often different things than I focus on in the reports. So it's a really good written highlight and summary, and includes great reads for each sign. So cozy by sweetstarlight.com. And if you're a traveler and you want to see my astrology travel reports to see what days to look out for specifically for travel, then check out Astrology Kissed Travel Bliss. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.